I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of December 8th, 2020, 7 p.m. web-based regular meeting. First on our agenda is a continued public hearing. DeMarco Site Plan Special Permit Mixed Use Development, 155 Greenwood Avenue. And I'll turn this over to Attorney Olson.
Thank you. Are there any reports that should be referenced before I start talking?
Not that I'm aware of. Beth, do we have any reports?
Beth's muted.
Muted.
Beth, you're muted. She's still muted.
You're muted, Beth.
I know. Got it. There is a memo from the fire marshal in the drive where it says town comments, dated December 7th, 2020. And there also is a memo in there from the public utilities director as far as town comments. And if you recall, at the last meeting, you will also notice in the drive that there are comments from a Brad Koltz, I believe. Koltz, I'm sorry. And those were inadvertently left out of the last public hearing, and you'll find them in your drive for this evening.
I have them all.
We're all
You got
there.
anything else from Laura with the new plan?
Not for this, not at this point.
Okay.
I do have something, but it isn't in the drive. I received it late this afternoon.
Okay.
Beth, I didn't see the fire marshal or PUC. When did they go in there?
I didn't either.
Last night,
I found them.
they went in yesterday.
They're in there.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see them. Can I ask, how long is the fire marshal memo? Is it long?
No, it's not long at all.
Is it possible you could read it to us, or Nancy could read it to us?
Sure. You have a memo dated December 7th from Thomas Galliford, the fire marshal. In reviewing the site plan for the above mentioned proposal with the Bethel Fire Chief, we offer the following comments. Number one, add a fire hydrant off proposed water main between buildings C and D near curb of parking spots. Number two, you need to provide fire apparatus maneuvering for tower to enter the complex from both directions on School Street. Number three, section 18.2344 of the Connecticut Fire Prevention Code requires fire access roads, driveways in excess of 150 feet with approved provisions for fire apparatus to turn around. The plan does not provide for this. The driveway parking area is approximately 270 feet from School Street to the 27th parking space with no area to turn around. This could also affect delivery trucks, etc. Please note that the aerial tower ladder access is adequate from the existing Wells Fargo parking lot. Any future changes to the Wells Fargo property will require a review by this office to ensure access to the rear side of proposed buildings B, C, D, and E. David, could you bring up the site plan just for a moment, because there is further explanation in regards to this, or unless is Dinus submitting another site plan this evening? No.
No, but I'm
Okay.
sure Dinus has his plan available if needed.
Okay, could somebody bring up the site plan itself actually showing the parking?
If
In
you
regard
want,
to this-
Dinah's screen sharing is enabled. You are still muted though.
Well, why don't I start talking while Dinus brings that up, and we can jump over to him when he's ready.
Okay,
Thank you.
So good evening. My name is Peter Olson. I'm an attorney with an office here in Bethel at 275 Greenwood Avenue. I am here tonight on behalf of Stephen DeMarco, who's the applicant and the contract purchaser of the property at 155 Greenwood Avenue, and he's joined us tonight. We have received, as Beth noted, comments from the Public Works Department, the Fire Marshal, and also from your reviewing engineers, Wright Pierce. And at the appropriate time, I'll have Dinus go through those comments. Our opinion is they're all very minor. We did receive them yesterday, and we'll be putting together a revised plan and information to respond to them. There really isn't much to respond to. So that's good, I think. Dinus, can you scroll down to the parking plan so Beth can complete her comment? There you
Yes. Anyways, when you look at the fire marshal's memo, it's a little contradictory. But number one, the most important item is dealing with the aerial tower, and his concern with the aerial tower, he has addressed himself in his comment where he says the aerial tower ladder access is adequate from the existing Wells Fargo parking lot. And any future changes to Wells property will require a review by this office to ensure access to the rear side of the proposed buildings B, C, D, and E. In regards to turning radiuses and things of that nature, if you recall, the site plan was changed, and the larger building that was located behind Dr. V's building itself was eliminated to increase the parking in that area. Because the amount of square footage has gone to 270 feet, Thomas's major concern was that there was a turning area for emergency vehicles. So there are 3 loading area parking spaces there. And his feeling was that they would, if they are also used for emergency matters such as an ambulance or a small truck, things of that nature, that it would be adequate. I did have a lengthy conversation with him about it, and I'm sure that he will be clarifying that a little bit further if necessary by the board. Just excuse me. Okay.
Thanks, Beth. So Dinus will explain this, but what we're going to do is use signage to allow those loading spaces to be loading only between 9 and 12 a.m. 9 and 12 p.m., I guess, 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. And one of them will be designated as emergency vehicles only for 24 hours a day. And that'll provide sufficient space for all kinds of trucks, including ambulances and small fire trucks to turn around. My understanding is he's okay with the large aerial truck if they need to pull in into this parking lot to back straight out into School Street as needed. Second, I'm pleased to report that I had a lengthy discussion with a woman named Min Yu, who is the Director of Real Property for Wells Fargo in the state of Connecticut. We specifically asked her about obtaining an easement across the Wells Fargo property for the water main that's going to be put in. The water main will be on 155 Green Avenue, but generally they need a certain amount of space around the water main for future work. So that would require an easement on their property. And also, in order to implement the plan, we are going to need to encroach onto the Wells Fargo property and do grading to support the sidewalk that we're putting in. So they're considering that. I also gently suggested to her that Wells Fargo might consider developing their property, and she should read the TOD plan. And hopefully she gets back to me on that as well. Now that we've gotten through all of the comments from the engineering and the site layout, including all the little fiddly bits of making sure grades match and all of that, we're going to proceed to develop our architecture. You've seen the rough painting elevations, but what we will do is provide you with floor plans and technical detailed elevations of the buildings that can then be used as part of your approval, hopefully, to compare to the building permit set. So we're just commencing that work. We'll be ready for your January meeting. And hopefully that's all we need. So let me turn it over to Dinus now to briefly respond to the 3 comment memos. Obviously, we haven't seen the health department memo, but hopefully, given the first memo they provided, we've addressed the concerns that they had. Dinus.
Good evening. For the record, Dinus Berbickas, professional engineer with Artel Engineering Group in Brookfield, Connecticut, here on behalf of the applicant. Thanks for hosting this meeting. As Attorney Olson had noted, we are in receipt of 3 comment letters to which we will respond. None of the comments really seem to be of any big issues. As Beth had stated, the fire marshal's comments, He had requested that we add in a hydrant between buildings C and D, which are these center buildings. I suspect he would like the hydrant right in this location where I'm marking on the plan. He had asked that we show aerial ladder movements into the site, which we have prepared that document. It's not loaded up yet on the or submitted to the town, but we'll submit it tomorrow. But basically, we show the fire truck can access off of School Street from either direction, either going eastbound and into the site, or coming from the east westbound and turning into the site. And the fire truck can make its way all the way to the end of the site. And I wish to note that 150 feet in, which is what Mr. Galliford is referring to in the fire prevention code book. 150 feet roughly brings the front of the truck to about here, off of the road itself. And now the aerial truck itself is quite a good length. I believe it's 50 some odd feet, maybe 60 feet long. So the rear of the truck would be somewhere in this vicinity. So again, if we pull the truck in just a bit more, we've got the entire site accessible for the aerial vehicle. And the only challenge would be backing the vehicle out once the emergency is done. With respect to smaller emergency vehicles, ambulances, and police and other emergency responders, we do have 3 parking spaces dedicated here at the extreme south end of the site for loading during a certain period of time during a day, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And we will post signs to direct people not to park there in those times. And for this particular parking space, we will also place a sign that states for emergency vehicle use only. So this dedicated space should be vacant at all times unless there's some emergency responder or routine police parking at this location. So pretty straightforward. We had next received a memorandum from Tom Villa, the Public Utilities Director. His memorandum basically talks about updating our application to the Public Utility Commission, basically rounding down or bringing down our anticipated sanitary sewer flow numbers. We had initially based our application to that committee based on this larger building at the south end of the site. Now that we've got smaller buildings, of course, we'll have smaller flows associated with those smaller buildings. So we'll update that as time goes on. Tom next asked about providing easements for the water main. As you may recall, and I'll scroll down to the next page, which is the grading utility plan. We had proposed our water main extension to be placed along the eastern side of the property as my cursor is moving across the screen. So we've offset the water main roughly 2 feet off of the property line, as noted in his comment letter, which leaves us 6 feet of, or excuse me, 6 feet of easement area available on the western side of the water main. And of course, when Wells Fargo makes their improvements, they too will, I guess, grant an easement for the other side of the water main. Next comment is regarding sanitary sewer, basically stating that the sewer main will remain privately owned within the site, only becoming a public utility once it's outside of the site. Next comment was regarding the grease trap. We had proposed a grease trap to serve, well, we showed it's being, serving the extreme southerlymost building. But primarily this grease trap is a placekeeper. In the event that this building is used for a restaurant type use, we would have the grease trap here. Also, if building B had some sort of a food service use in it, it could connect into this grease trap. And really, any of these buildings could be utilized for that type of use, and we can add in another grease trap or shift the grease trap to wherever necessary to serve that particular building or unit. Pretty straightforward, easy thing to do, but the challenge is to separate out the gray water from the black water prior to it leaving the building. The next comment letter that we received was from Wright Pierce, and Wright Pierce basically had acknowledged receipt and I guess approval of all of our response comments to their initial comment letter. The only two outstanding items that they are seeking further clarification on would be our stormwater management system location and its proximity to the buildings. In their initial letter, they wanted to have a separation of 100 feet from the buildings. And of course, 100 feet is not physically possible because of the dimensions of the property. And in fact, it would be difficult to put a stormwater management system 100 feet from any of the properties in the downtown area. So again, we'll clarify that with Wright Pierce. I think we have suitable separation from the buildings as we have these systems designed. And there will be no impact to the building footings or structural elements whatsoever. Their second comment was basically to provide some additional calculations with respect to water quality. We had, with our engineering report, submitted water quality calculations for the water that we are capturing on site. There's a little bit of water that is going to bypass, from this northernmost catch basin outward to School Street. So there's a sliver of land that they would like to have included into their water quality calculation. And I believe there's a sliver of land in the front of Greenwood Avenue also that they'd like to add. So it's just a minor modification to the calculation. It will make no impact to our stormwater management system. And again, readily address no showstoppers, what I'd call on this on these comment letters. I'm
Thanks,
happy to
Diane.
answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Dinas. I just want to clarify one comment about the water easement that is being requested. What we've done is ask Wells Fargo to provide that easement, whether or not they ever develop their property. So I guess what I have in mind is that there'll be a 16-foot wide pedestrian easement that will also be a water line easement right under that sidewalk, 8 feet on either side. So I think that we've reached the end of the comment review process. The only items that are left are really minor detail items. And so our request to you is to take into consideration that the site plan is basically locked. The buildings, the square footage, and the parking spaces are not going to change any further. So we'd like to ask you to close the public hearing tonight on the request for reduction in the parking requirement. And I'll explain why in a moment, but we hope that you'll deliberate and give direction to Beth as to how the commission feels that decision should go. The reason I ask that is we are just undertaking the expense of putting together the architectural floor plans and elevation, which is, between $20,000 and $25,000. And we are also under contract to purchase the land, and it's looking like we're going to need to close the acquisition by the end of the year. So we would really like to know if you as a commission are amenable to the request to reduce the parking requirement. Because if you're not, then we should stop right here and not continue any further. But we're hopeful that you are. As we stated at the first public hearing, the simple, inexpensive way for us to develop this property is to simply build 18 residential units and not try to provide any commercial. The site plan in the end probably results in exactly as you see here, just with some reallocation of the buildings and the parking spaces, but we end up with roughly the same number of parking spaces. The only way to get what we think the town and the commission want as laid out in the Bethel Forward Plan, which is an activated pedestrian walkway with commercial on both sides, is to add the commercial to that 18-unit project. And to do so, we cannot provide any additional parking spaces because there's just no room on the site. So our request to you is to recognize what you adopted when you did that Bethel Forward Plan, that in order to make this pedestrian walkway happen, that some incentive should be provided. That's stated directly in that plan to incentivize it. And we think the appropriate incentive, which doesn't really cost the town anything, is to recognize that these commercial spaces aren't going to be large parking drivers and should be approved without requiring parking for them. So as I said, I hope that you recognize that we're at an important inflection point in this process where we need to know if we're going to go forward and spend a bunch more money. And hopefully you'll provide guidance to us and to your staff that you're amenable to the request and we should proceed. In the meantime, the site plan and the architecture we'll keep working on and resolve these minor little details, get that to you, and hopefully be in position for you to make a final decision at your meeting on January 12th. Thanks. We have nothing further for you tonight, except we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Olson. All right, as this is a continuation of a public hearing, we'd like to reach out to the public if you have any questions. And David, if you'd be kind enough to share with the public how to raise their hand to ask their question.
Sure. I'm just going to shut off the sharing here for a brief moment before I do so. Okay, so for those of you who have participated in this public process already, just bear with me. We'll get to you guys in a brief moment. But for those of you who have yet to provide public comments or have not used the Zoom platform before, how you would indicate that you wish to provide public comment is by doing what's called raising your hand. Now, you would not do that physically through your webcam or however you're doing tonight's presentation. You would use the participants tab at the bottom of the Zoom platform, and there's a list of names, the participants for tonight's meeting. You would click next to your own name. There will be an option for you to raise your own hand. I see one person has done that already. We'll recognize folks that raise their hands in sequential order. The first person I'm seeing tonight is a B. Koltz.
So hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Brad.
Hi, Brad Koltz, 1 Fairchild Drive, Bethel, Connecticut. I have 2 specific comments to share that I think need to be addressed before the commission proceeds with this or any additional approvals of this kind. The commission voted to approve the TOD 5.1 on December 12, 2017. Connecticut Statute 7148A requires that the final version be given to the town clerk to certify it and have it be added to the compilation of ordinances maintained in the clerk's office for public inspection on or before March 1st of the following even year. That was not done on March 1, 2018. And in fact, I have confirmed with the town clerk's office, has still not been done. The same statute also requires that the certified document be shared with the state courts and appropriate agencies so that should there be a legal challenge to such an ordinance, the courts would have the documents on hand. That I have also confirmed has not been done. So frankly, as TOD 5.1 has not been certified, has not been publicly posted, it is legally not in force. And I would point out that since that is the case, at this time, the village district zoning rules have to be applied to the project that you're discussing because there is no TOD 5.1 in effect at the moment. I also need to point out that the state statute authorizing the creation of TODs establishes a maximum radius of 1/2 mile from the transit hub for the maximum extension of the TOD. Now, the 1/2 mile ends at the corner of Library Place and Greenwood Avenue. The map that was adopted at the same time massively oversteps the authorized radius that's been included, and in fact includes the village district. And that also needs to be corrected because, again, the portion of town that is being considered for this is not legally within a TOD. Those are the points that I wish to share. Thank you.
We'll take all comments and questions, and then the applicant can respond.
Next, I'm seeing a Tim Draper.
Tim?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Tim Draper, 48 Aunt Patty's Lane West, Bethel. I think this is a good project and it would be a nice addition to the downtown being developed by two of the best developers in Bethel. I just wanted to get some clarification on part of this process. There's a few questions that I had, and most of them are simple, yes or no answer responses. So I have 6 of them. First one is, I just want to be clear on things, that's all. And the first is, it's 1.5 parking spots per unit, correct? Number 2, there is no visitor parking also, correct? 3, is there any parking for the commercial or retail when the apartment units are occupied? 4, fire apparatus from the west is through the neighboring property, which would be Wells Fargo. That's the west side. And what if Wells Fargo's property is developed with the same property line setbacks that's proposed now? Will the fire apparatus be able to make it down a 16-foot alley? And then the last thing is there any green space or play areas put aside for the residential units? That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Next, I'm seeing a Beth Camp.
Hi, good evening. It's Beth Camp, again, representing as property manager for the owners of 153 Greenwood Avenue and 8 School Street, the abutting property. One yes or no question. If I was following the presentation, it sounds like for emergency vehicles, you are now eliminating at least one of the parking spaces. If I'm correct, I'd like to know that because that means you're going back in the wrong direction again with regards to parking. I still think this is cart before the horse because the parking issues in downtown Bethel have not been addressed yet, and you are offloading a lot of commercial onto already overtaxed areas in this particular block. And again, I wanted to represent that the tenants next door to this project have people that are not walking or biking. They're not training. They're coming from New York State. They're coming from other areas of Connecticut for services at our location and need parking. And again, our height and level of traffic is January through April. So I just wanted that noted for the record one more time. And again, I'm representing the interests, not just of myself on this project, but of my tenants. That's all.
Thank you, Beth.
I'm not seeing anyone else at the immediate moment, Pat.
Okay. All right, then I'll turn it over to the applicant if you would be kind enough to respond to some of these questions and comments.
Sure, let me do the detailed ones first. In terms of the first three items identified by Mr. Draper, I don't think it's appropriate to break it down that way. Yes, the TOD and the village district require 1.5 parking spaces per residential unit. They also require a quarter space per residential unit for visitor, and they have various requirements for commercial. We have asked that the original request was to reduce the number of parking spaces required from whatever that number was to 16. We've now been able to provide additional spaces with the revised plan, so it doesn't have to be reduced as far as 16. I think the best way to look at it is we're asking you to reduce the commercial to 0, basically, and reduce the residential by not requiring us to provide the full 1.5 spaces and visitor spaces. How they get individually allocated, I don't think is important for the question. Fire access. Essentially, we've got 3 different ways to access the property for fire prevention purposes. A fire truck can drive in the driveway straight. That's the discussion Dinas was having about what the 150-foot rule means and whether the fire marshal is comfortable if his truck has to drive 200 or 250 feet in and then back out the entire way. And the indication when we met with the fire marshal is that, yes, he's comfortable with his drivers being able to back up an additional 100 feet to get out of it. He noted the rule and noted that in order to make sure that the smaller trucks don't have to back up, that additional space be provided for them to turn around. And I'll get to that in a second. The second way to access is via the pedestrian walkway. We originally proposed that the pedestrian walkway be 14 feet wide, 7 feet on each side of the property line. At Mr. Galliford's suggestion, we increased that to 16 feet so that a fire truck can drive straight from Greenwood Avenue, that's 1, or from School Street, that's 2, straight to the other end if needed. If they can come in from Greenwood Avenue, they can go 150 feet and be far enough into the property that we think it's very close to 150 feet coming the other way. Now, what does that mean for the pedestrian walkway? Obviously, we would hope in a fire there would be no pedestrians on the pedestrian walkway. That would certainly be a limiting factor to a truck driving there. We're proposing removable bollards at the end of the pedestrian walkway at each end so that the trucks can just remove them and drive right up onto them. The 16 feet is wide enough for the trucks to drive, even if there's awnings on the building. And we'll certainly make sure that there are no benches or trees or anything like that that obstruct the right of way for the truck to do that. So that's number 2 and 3. And then the fourth is the current condition, which is the Wells Fargo parking lot is undeveloped. And Mr. Galliford told us that he's perfectly comfortable driving into that parking lot to fight a fire on both sides of the buildings that we provide. In his comment letter, he said, if that building is developed, we'll want to look at the way the whole thing works together and make sure we're comfortable. So he's just saying that someday we may have to look at this again. So that's the fire access answer. And at the end of the day, our fire marshal is comfortable with the project as proposed. Green space, there is green space next to the existing home on the right. We're doing landscaping on the left side of it. But most of that from the rear back is going to be hardscape, whether that's the pedestrian walkway, which is the amenity that we're providing, or the sidewalks or the parking lot. Note that these are 1-bedroom units, so the number of children that we expect to live here is almost non-existent. Certainly it's possible, but we don't expect there to be a large number of children living here. Have we eliminated a parking space? I guess the answer to that is we've probably eliminated 3 parking spaces. Our revised plan shows 27 or showed 27 spaces. We've taken 3 of those spaces at the end and converted them to a loading zone. This was a comment from Rice Pierce that we needed to provide a loading zone. So what we've done is those spaces, which make up about 500 square feet, will be signaged, no parking, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that's for loading. That's for trucks to come in and serve these buildings. Now, a 500 square foot space isn't going to require 18 wheelers coming in. What we're mostly talking about is box trucks and UPS trucks and things like that, where they'll come in, drop stuff off and get out. The rest of the day, that is noon till 9 a.m. the next day, Two of those will be available for parking, but we're going to call it a loading zone and not really ask that you count them as parking because they're not parking 24/7. The third space is what Mr. Galliford asked us to reserve for turnaround by emergency vehicles. That is an ambulance or the small fire truck, or as he said, a delivery truck to go in, park, back in, and get out and not obstruct anything. That one we're going to sign as no parking 24/7. So that's definitely a loss of a parking space. But I just wanted to be clear about the three spaces, the changes that we've made. The comments on the legal side are just flat out incorrect. First of all, I am looking at a PDF that I happen to have in my possession right now that indicates that, oh, hang on, I lost it on the screen. Let me get back for a second. The transit-oriented district regulations were filed with the town clerk and notice was published in the News Times in 2017. Of course, I can't find it as I'm clicking through things. Give me 1 second. I'll get it back and give you the exact date. So the copy that I have is stamped by the town clerk as received on December 13, 2017. So there's no question that the regulations are in full force and effect. They were adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission in exercise of their authority under Chapter 124 of the General Statutes.
And may I speak in regards to that, Peter?
Sure.
I just want to add, Brad, if you had any questions regarding that, you certainly can contact town council, or you can contact my office to discuss that further.
The second comment I would say is that if indeed there were a defect in the publication, filing, or notification related to that, the general statutes provide that an appeal must be taken within 15 days from the time notice is published in the newspaper. That was accomplished on December 15th, 2017. No appeal was taken. Finally, if there's a defect in that notice, any appeal must be taken within 1 year, which time period expired in 2018. So there's no doubt that the TOD regulations are in full force and effect. That same regulation, that same statute applies to the plan of development adopted as Bethel Forward in 2015, as well as the plan of conservation and development, which was recognized that the Bethel Forward plan was an amendment, and we are good now through 2027, I believe, for our plan of conservation and development. So there's absolutely no legal infirmity to the commission considering TOD overlay zone as the applicable zoning for the property. I hope that answers all the questions that were raised. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about Ms. Camp?
I answered her question. She said, did you eliminate one parking space?
Oh,
I said we eliminated 3.
I know that. Okay.
All right. David, you're not seeing any other raised hands, are you?
I am. I'm seeing one from a Peter Haberland.
May I unmute myself?
Yes, please. And if you just give us your name and your address, please.
Sure. Thank you very much, commissioners. My name is Peter Haberland. I am senior legal counsel with Open Communities Alliance in Hartford, Connecticut, 75 Charter Oak Avenue in Hartford. I have a question about the pending application, and I apologize, I came in a little late, so I missed some of the briefing that was given. And the question is whether any of the residential units are going to be affordable for lower moderate income families in Connecticut. And second, I would like to note that earlier today I submitted a letter on behalf of Open Communities Alliance to the Zoning Commission concerning applications that I understand are before you later this evening regarding Good Hill Road and Surrey Road. And I am asking that that letter be considered. I am not asking that that letter be necessarily part of the public hearing record. I understand that that record may have closed, but it is a letter of fair housing concerns that I'm asking the commissioners to acknowledge and take a look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Peter, when did you submit that letter? I did not receive it. Could you tell me where you sent it to?
I sent, yes, of course. I'm not sure I used the right address, but the land use Bethel email address that was on the meeting agenda, and I sent it not too long ago. I mean, very close to the start of the meeting. So that may be why you haven't seen it yet.
No, we haven't, and we don't have it in available at the moment. And
well, if there, yeah, and I don't want to
hearings are closed.
Digress. I'm sorry, what's that?
I said, we'll talk about what you're talking, if you want to stay on for a while longer, those public hearings are closed in regards to Shelley and Good Hill Road. So the information that you would want to submit is not submittable at this point, but our legal counsel will be available. We can discuss it at that time if you need to, if you wish to discuss that further with him. Also, let's go back to this one and continue on then. Oh, I'm sorry. You had a question about affordable housing in regards to this application, sir?
Yes.
And I can answer that, Beth.
I did.
the
I
applicant.
did.
Okay.
Thank you.
In
and
regards,
thank you. And yep,
in
go
regards
ahead. And
to-
I just want to say that the letter was submitted not as part of a public hearing. It's simply a letter of concern that the commissioner should seriously consider. That's all.
okay.
But go ahead. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to ask a question and comment.
Okay, in regards to this particular application, in the TOD zone, there is a 20% requirement of the residential units. Anything exceeding 5 units in this particular matter, I believe there's 16 units that are proposed residential units, and there is a requirement that 20% of them be affordable.
Just to continue with that, that's 20% of the units affordable at 80% of the state median
state.
income. Sorry, of the local median income, which is higher than the state median income. I would also point out that the units are between 600 and 700 square feet in size, 1 bedroom. So, by their nature, they are not terribly expensive.
Thank you.
Okay. Pat, I'm seeing one more raised hand from Tim Draper.
Okay. Tim?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just had one clarification. So I understood that there was 27 parking spaces before, which was 1.5 per unit. And now you're taking 3 away, so it's less than 1.5 per unit, correct? That was my only question, just clarification on it.
Peter, did you want to respond to him?
Yeah, are there any more comments from the public?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay. Yes, we're proposing 24 parking spaces. And like I said, I don't think you should allocate it simply to the residential units that way. That there's various sources for parking, but the total number of spaces provided will be 24 for 18 residential units.
And just as I said that, Brad Koltz also raised his hand.
I'm doing my best to stick to the established procedure.
I
Thank you, Peter.
understand. I apologize.
Brad?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, I have confirmed with both the town attorney and the town clerk's office the information about the material required under 7148A has not been certified through the town clerk's office, has not been made available to the public as is required, and has not been made available to the state courts or state agencies as is required. So you can challenge the point about whether that means anything or not, but I suspect that this whole process is headed to the courts if this isn't corrected. And that's what I wanted to share.
David, are you seeing anyone else before Peter answers this question?
I am not.
No.
Okay. This will be our last question from the public.
I have no comment other than Mr. Koltz is incorrect that this has any relevance to this consideration.
Okay.
Pat, I have
Thank
not
you.
heard anything from town council.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now move out to commission members. If I may, I'll just simply call on people. Kitty,
No, I think all of my questions were answered at my last meeting. I don't think I have anything right now.
John,
Thank you. Attorney, what happens if they don't grant the easement next door to get the 7 feet to be able to put the 8-inch water main in to start the project?
Well, theoretically, we don't need that much space for a water easement, right? You're just talking about the width of the pipe. It's just what the town would like to have. So if Wells Fargo gets their back up and says they won't grant it, we'll still have 8 feet of a water easement for the town, which should be more than enough for them to do anything they need to do.
Okay, so you feel comfortable the PUC is not going to have, would obviously grant the extension from School Street to Greenwood, even if they didn't want to play nice next door?
Yeah, I mean, technically, Dinas, maybe you can chime in here, but we're providing that water line up the pedestrian walkway to loop Greenwood and School Street. We don't actually need to do that for our project. We can come straight in from School Street or Greenwood Avenue to serve our project, but it's better for the downtown to do it. Dinas, am I misspeaking or is that correct?
No, that you're entirely correct. Provides a redundancy to the town water system and will be a benefit to the town itself.
So if we can't work out an appropriate easement with PUC, we just don't put the water line in.
And Pat, my last question is for Beth. What if next door they want to develop that property and they didn't want, they built it right to their property line? What is the safeguards to make sure that that access way from the two streets always is maintained?
As far as the 16-foot pedestrian access way is that what you're making reference to?
Yeah, 8 on each side, right? So this application has the first 8. What if Wells Fargo tries to develop and they're not playing nice and they don't maintain their 8 feet for the walkway for the TOD plan?
Well, the plan is very specific that this is what you want to see, and if it's not done according to the way you wish it to be done, it's not going to be approved.
Okay, so that's the safeguard. It's because we have a plan in place.
As the commission.
Yeah.
You have to remember this whole premise of the pedestrian access way leading down to School Street is one of the major premises of that plan that the town of Bethel has spent close to $250,000 on.
Right.
And you all bought into it and the town bought into it. This is the area where you wanted to see mixed use residential development, trying to meet different criteria that you have for creating housing for your neighbors.
Got it.
And small scale commercial development.
And the residential to help support it. Got it.
Can I just make one comment in reference to open space and the green space associated with this building? I would remind everybody, because we tend to forget, all you have to do is look across the street. What's across the street? The municipal center.
A lot of green space.
A lot of green space and a lot of activity once we get through COVID.
Right. So Pat, the last thing I want to say, maybe the last thing, excuse me, is that I think the commission needs to steer Beth to formally start the dialogue with the selectman's office on the overnight parking throughout all of the parking that we have in Bethel, right? So I don't want to lose traction on that. I don't think we should do it for one particular application. I think we should do it for the greater of all of Bethel, okay? So we'll talk about that later when we have discussions.
But may I, John, expound a little bit on what you said? This isn't the first application talking about parking overnight. So I think your point is a very good one, and that we should be going to the selectman's office sometime soon. And if I may, Pat, I did have one question, and I think it's been answered, but I just wanted to verify.
Sure.
Peter, in Laura's letter, she had a problem with the garbage, with the placement of it. That was changed, wasn't it? The way you were handling that?
Yes, so we were proposing to do that in an alcove within the building B that we had proposed.
Right.
That building B is now vastly reduced in size. So it's a area on the ground now instead of within a
So it's all
building.
outside.
It makes it much simpler to deal with, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And if I could just go back to Mr. Lennon's comments, if Wells Fargo is by it somehow gets past the commission, a development with buildings on the property line so that there's only 8 feet between the buildings, that's okay. That's still wider than sidewalks are generally supposed to be. The sidewalks are usually 3 to 5 feet. So we would still have a pedestrian walkway between Greenwood Avenue and School Street. It just wouldn't be as cool. There wouldn't be as much room to do things like park a food truck there, So I think that's perfectly okay if that's what happens. It's not what we think should happen, but if somehow the commission allowed it, it still works on our property.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh, and on the parking, we 100% support efforts by the town to help the parking situation in the downtown. As I've said multiple times, we don't think that our development is going to have a significant impact on it, but that doesn't mean we can't improve it. What I would suggest is that the commission send a letter signed by the chairwoman of the commission to the selectmen, so it becomes an official correspondence from commission to commission that says, please do something about this. Maybe consider appointing an ad hoc committee of owners in the downtown and municipal staff to look at the situation and come up with ideas of what to do, and provide that advice to the Board of Selectmen and the Planning and Zoning Commission to take steps to work on the problem.
Thank you, Peter. Penny, you're next.
Other than completely agreeing with John about the towns being involved with parking, all of my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Ken.
I like the project in general. I think it's the right direction. I think it's going to be a good addition overall. I still have some reservations on the minimal parking we're going to have. I just think that's asking for a little bit of trouble. That's it.
Thank you, Ken. Bob Legnard.
Couple of things. When we did the TOD, this was the intent of having people living downtown, some additional commercial space. And this plan, that's what this plan does. Okay, as far as the easement going up the one side of the property between Wells Fargo and there, that was at the request of Public Utilities. They want those loops put in place. We've done it other places.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it out in Stony Hill. We've done it downtown. That loop is important to water quality and to water pressure. So, and I think it would be a benefit to Wells Fargo to have that water line going up the property line between the two properties. It doesn't make sense for them to put the back of a building against the pedestrian walkway, and their parking then is next to the library, which is at a higher elevation than the library. So I think it makes sense to combine these two pieces of property at some point down the road. Can we make them do that? No. But we hope they will do it, and we hope it'll turn out better than it is right now. So I think we're meeting the TOD head on with this project, and that's what we need to do downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Rich.
No additional questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Rob. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob, you weren't here for all of our meetings, so you're here tonight just to view everything going and hearing everything going on.
I would.
Did Linda join us?
Pat, if I could just ask Peter just a little follow-up question on his discussion with
Sure, go ahead.
With Wells Fargo. Peter, when you spoke with them, did you happen to forward a copy of the TOD to them?
Yes.
Ah, okay, thank you. So therefore,
like I said, the woman I spoke with told me, well, you're not the first one to try to develop our property or make us develop our property. And it doesn't always make financial sense for us to do that. but I was gently suggesting that there were many options for them if they chose to go down that path.
Yeah, no,
And by the way, look at the cover. Look at the cover of the TOD plan.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I also would encourage the town, I don't know if it's would be best purview or economic development purview, maybe, keep in contact with them once in a while.
Linda?
I have no questions. It's a little bit frustrating, perhaps, that everybody was so gung-ho about the TOD plans. And now we're kind of like backstepping and saying, well, wait a minute, we can't really do that, unless we do something else. But as far as this particular application goes, I'm very happy with the changes that the applicant has made. And I think it's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Rob Wallace.
No, I don't have any questions at all. I've loved the project from the very beginning, and to the development team, I think that they answered the questions as best they could with the limited space. So that's it. No questions.
Thank you, Rob. And just my comments, I have to agree with Bob Legnard that this was the intent of the TOD. And with Linda saying everybody was on, I won't say everybody, 99% of the people were on board with the TOD. So it's kind of surprising right now to hear that there are some concerns. John's question was very good about, we do have to get to the town, the commission, myself, Beth, to meet with the town and discuss parking, using town parking for other things in Bethel. With that being said, Beth, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to briefly make one comment in regards to the parking. I did happen to hear about apartments and parking and stuff. And I just want to point out to the board that there are two instances that I recall where parking has become an issue. One of them is at the intersection of Chestnut and Greenwood Avenue. There used to be an old bar there, if you recall. And that bar sat there dilapidated for close to 20 years, and it changed hands and people went in and out. And finally what we did was they went for a variance. They got a variance to put in 2 or 3 apartments in there, if I recall, and there's no parking on the property. Where those people park, I don't know. I don't know what type of arrangements were made with other property owners in order for them to get tenants. But without that variance, that place probably would still be sitting there empty. The second instance, and I think I mentioned this, was during one of the other public hearings, is the Opera House cafe. Again, I think it's a great idea for the town to get involved with this parking, because I believe, and the property owners here, there was a verbal agreement for the residents that the apartments in the Opera House building to use the old train parking lot. And it was either 2 or 3 years ago, a sign goes up saying no overnight parking, and people were starting to be ticketed. Those are the 2 places where I know where no parking exists for the residential tenants of those facilities. So I do have a lot of respect for what you're saying, and I think it's something that we should take care of immediately, especially, like I've mentioned before, overnight parking in the winter is an issue.
Thank you, Beth. All right, hearing all of the questions, all of the responses, what I'd like to do is take a consensus of the commission about closing this hearing tonight. And I'm going to have to call you by name because we can't see everybody here this evening. So if I may, I'd like to start out with the commission members. I would like a consensus for myself to close the hearing. Kitty?
Yes, close it.
John?
So I'm also in agreement on closing the public hearing, but I also think we should go one step further and give a clear consensus on which way the commission is thinking on approving the parking reduction so this application go forward. So I think we should consider that as well once you get a consensus on closing the hearing tonight.
Can I
Right.
just remind the commission, if you're closing the hearing on the parking, and this is also for the general public's information too, that does not mean that you have stopped reviewing the site plan portion of this project. There are things that need to be addressed according to the site plan, in particular the architecture and some minor things dealing with garbage and things of that nature. Okay.
Thank you, Beth. Ken,
Yes.
Bob Legnard,
I think we should close the public hearing, and I think we should continue, like you say, reviewing architecture, et cetera, getting the best project possible out of it. But we've been requested by the attorney to give a consensus, and I think we need to give that consensus. The parking part of it is okay.
thank you. Rich Tibbetts,
I agree to close the hearing.
Linda,
In favor of closing.
Rob, Wallace.
In favor of closing.
Okay, Rob Stoll.
Yes.
All right, Beth, is there anything else you need from?
Hi, Pat.
Oh, didn't I call on you, Penny? I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Penny.
Yes to closing.
Thank you. All right, Beth, is there anything else then you need from us? You're muted, Beth. All right, then this public hearing is closed. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Now, what about the other part?
Beth, do you want us to move to discussing the parking right now?
I don't think it's necessary at this point. You have other items on the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
It's up to you.
Well, commission members, how do you feel?
I would defer to Peter and see Peter, is that sufficient for you to continue at this point?
I mean, I'd love for you to draft a motion to tell Beth to draft a resolution of approval to be voted on at some future date. That would give us a lot of comfort to, spend the money on the architecture and go buy the property. So,
Can we do that without a final site plan?
yes, absolutely. Because that's just the special permit.
So the request is to ask staff to draft a motion to reduce the parking. It would be from a particular number to whatever number we've come to. I don't have a problem if that's the way you want to go with it. I do want to get a little bit more clarity from Tom Galliford, the fire marshal, before that's done.
So it's just, what he's asking for is just a draft for the parking section of the.
That's right. That's it.
Yes, this is just parking.
Well, that's fine. I would agree with that. That would be fine.
All right, are all other commission members fine with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Any commission members have any other questions about that? All right, hearing none, then this public hearing is closed.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on, next on our agenda is the business meeting. We have 2 meeting minutes to approve. If I may have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 23rd.
Pat, before we do that,
Yes, Bob.
do we add to the work session the calendar and the
Yeah, I was going to do that once we got down to the work session, to add the calendar and the election of officers. Thank you. If I may have a motion, Bob, you gave me the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I need to hear voices.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. All right, so going back to our meeting minutes, I don't have to seat anyone because all of our full-time members are here. Again, going back to November 23rd meeting minutes. If Bob, you made a motion, if I may have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Ken. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I need to hear voices.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Meeting minutes of November 24th, if I may have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Penny. And Kitty. Any discussion on
Was
those
that
meeting
Penny?
minutes?
Second? I'm
Yes.
sorry, Penny?
Yeah, that was Penny.
Penny's motion.
Penny and Kitty.
I made the motion. Kitty.
And Kitty seconded.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any discussion on the November 24th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Moving on to our work session. Oakwoods LLC, Tim Draper, 11 units, Connecticut State Statutes 8-30G, affordable housing, 9 Good Hill Road. Now, we did request at our last meeting that a resolution of denial be prepared, which has been done. And I am hoping that every commission member had an opportunity to read it. And I'd like to ask, after reading this, is there anything, I'm going to have Nancy. Nancy, you have some highlighted areas you're going to read on this first, and then we're going to go out to commission members for any additions, any changes, any deletions that they think that should happen. So Nancy, we're doing Good Hill first.
Okay. This is at the December 8th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission, an application prepared and presented by Michael Mizuko, PE, and Neil Marcus Esquire on your behalf, was considered and reviewed for a site plan under Section 8-30G of the State of Connecticut General Statutes, consisting of the following: construction of a multifamily development consisting of 11 two-bedroom units, driveway, parking areas, drainage, and stormwater management systems, along with an affordable housing plan restricting 30% or 4 of the units, meeting the requirements of the above-mentioned statute. Whereas the commission carefully listened to the applicant's presentations, public testimony, received and reviewed written correspondence, and engaged the applicant in discussion on the merits of the application. Whereas after careful consideration of all of the above, the commission hereby resolves to deny this application for the following reasons. 1, the proposed affordable housing development does not provide the amenities associated with a residential dwelling unit within a residential zone, such as decks, open space, green areas for play, and opportunities for interaction among its residents and neighbors within the existing established neighborhood. 2, services associated with an apartment house, sidewalks for walkability, public transportation, and parks are not available from this site. Sidewalks along the proposed driveway are not proposed. Sidewalks connecting to the downtown area are located close to a quarter of a mile away after traversing a narrow road with a blind curve. 3, the proposed affordable housing development layout and architecture of when considering the neighborhood by which it's surrounded is isolated and segregated in nature and does not promote inclusion with the existing neighborhood. 4, the proposed development location and height of the structure in relation to the existing single-family dwelling located to the east of the proposal will create an unhealthy environment for residents at 11 Good Hill Road due to the proposed changes in elevation up to 6 feet and 2 stories. 11-unit structure, the family residing at 11 Good Hill Road will be looking into the second floor of the development from their first floor living area. That's
Thank you,
what I
Nancy.
have.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, so I'll just reach out to commission members. Is there anything that you think was not included here? Do you suggest any changes to this?
Can I just note for the record,
Absolutely.
before you go to the commission members, that it is a 5-page resolution. There is explanations given under each of the points given. There's a description also of all the site plan documents that were submitted, and the resolution has been located in the Google Drive since yesterday evening, so the commission members did have plenty of time to review it and call staff with questions. And also the other item I just want to mention, there may be some typos located in some of these resolutions and minor fixes that have to occur. And Chuck, would you please correct me if I'm leaving anything out from their discussion as far as technical and clerical things that we would have to do?
Chuck Anders, no, Beth, that's correct. I think that's accurate.
Okay, Pat, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Reaching out to commission members, was there anything you saw that you questioned or wanted changed or wanted added to this?
Kitty Grant, no, I think it's very well done and accepted as written.
Kessler, as Beth said, there are a couple of grammar-ish things that need to be cleaned up. Beth, do you want me to send them over to you?
That would be great.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things to clean. Other than that, no problems.
Thank you, Penny. John?
No, I think that was the flavor of the commission that night. Thanks.
Ken?
I think it's a little heavy-handed, but I'm not saying it's incorrect.
So, or is that a yes?
I don't want to add anything to it. That was your question.
All right. Bob Legnard?
I don't want to add anything. I think it's good.
And Rich Tibbetts?
Good here.
Okay, so at this time, I'm not going to reach out to any alternate members. Is that correct, Beth?
That's correct. You have full 7-member board here.
Full board is here. So if I may have a motion to move this forward.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward this resolution for.
Kitty, could we just, you're not moving forward?
No,
Kitty,
I'd like to make a motion to approve to
deny.
To deny the motion.
Resolution. Wait a minute. Go ahead, Chuck.
The motion to deny the application and adopt the resolution of denial is your reasons for decision.
Thank you very much. What he said.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Penny. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? This motion carries.
Was there was one abstention?
Ken, was that an aye from you?
No.
Abstained?
He abstained.
No, it was a no.
Oh, it was a no. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's clarify that again. You have 6.
May I?
Six yeses and 1 no.
Okay.
All right, moving on to Shelley Woods, LLC, Tim Draper, 9 units, Connecticut State Statutes, 8-30G, affordable housing, 47 Shelley Road. And Nancy, I'll reach out to you again.
Yep. At the December 8th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission, an application prepared and presented by Stephen Trinkus, PE, and Neil Marcus Esquire on your behalf was considered and reviewed for a site plan under Section 8-30G of the State of Connecticut General Statutes, consisting of the following: construction of a multifamily development consisting of 9 2-bedroom units, driveway parking areas, drainage and stormwater management systems, along with an affordable housing plan restricting 30% or 3 of the units meeting the requirements of the above mentioned statute. Whereas the commission carefully listened to the applicant's presentations, public testimony, received and reviewed written correspondence, and engaged the applicant in discussion on the merits of the application. Whereas, after careful consideration of all of the above, the commission hereby resolves to deny this application for the following reasons. 1, the proposed primary and reserve areas for on-site septic systems fail to comply with Connecticut Public Health Code regulations and technical standards. Excuse me. 2, the proposed access to the site is unsafe for emergency vehicles and other vehicles using the site. 3, other issues. For all the foregoing reasons, we deny this application.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
All right, reaching back out to commission members. Are there any changes, any additions?
Kitty Grant, no. No changes. No additions.
I have none. John?
I have no additions, and that's what pretty much the discussion was about. Thank you.
Penny?
No additions.
Kenny?
No additions.
Okay, Bob Legnard?
Additions.
I'm sorry, Bob, I couldn't hear you.
No additions.
Thank you. Rich Tibbetts?
No additions.
All right, so I would like to move this forward with a motion, if I may have a motion on this.
Excuse me, Pat, before you start, Attorney Andrews would like to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Yes, just because this is a separate application than the other one, just to note the same disclaimers that Beth mentioned for the other one, which is that there are, I believe, some dates to be filled in. There are some typos. I noticed some typos on the last page as well, where there was some redundancy in a paragraph. And the should be they, and so forth. So with the understanding that staff be allowed to make those corrections, and I can say specifically, there's a sentence that said the extent of the changes, however, cannot be determined until the applicant performs a stopping site distance analysis, and then delete the words has been performed as requested by the engineer, and changing a the to they. That's on page 6. So just to clarify that, those changes.
Thank you, Chuck.
And other changes.
Also, yeah, also there's going to be an insertion of, at the time when when I was working on part of this, I didn't have the architectural dates and designs and BBS designs and those dates, and that's very technical, and that'll just be included in there too, just to give you an example of the minor details that we have to put in.
Thank you. So once again, I'll ask, may I have a motion, please?
So moved the way Chuck did the first one.
Yeah, I assume it's a motion to deny the application and to adopt the resolution of denial that we've discussed as the reasons for the commission's decision.
Correct.
I second.
He said.
Second.
All right. I'll just ask if we're all in agreement, because I can't see everybody. I am.
Pat, I would suggest that you call by name and
That's
have
what I'm
them
doing.
say yes or no.
That's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
All right. I'm a yes. Kitty?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Penny?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Bob Legnard? And Rich Tibbetts?
Aye.
All right. Is there anything else you need, Beth?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. All right, moving on.
No, don't move on yet, if you don't mind. First, I think it's important, I just want to thank Attorney Andrus for his help in regarding these applications, the review process, and also of processing the resolutions for both these applications. Also thank the commission, the applicant, and the general public that participated in these applications, no matter what the decisions were. It was a very long process, and a lot of good information was submitted, and discussion was had between the applicant and the experts involved. And I just wanted to thank everyone for that.
All right, we've added 2 things to our work session, which is our calendar for 2021. I went through and I checked all the dates. There's no holiday on any of the days that you've put out here. No holidays of any kind.
Okay, before you do that, Attorney Andrus, do you have anything that you want to say?
No, Beth, I'm all set, and I think we're all set on the other applications, and I assume you can probably don't need me for the rest of the meeting. Is that correct, or?
That's correct. No, I think we're good for the rest of the meeting, and I just want to thank you again for all your help. And
thank you, Chuck.
with
Yes,
the
thank
town
you,
of
Chuck.
Bethel and wish you a good holiday. But I will say that probably, unfortunately, we'll be talking before the holiday to finish this up and do other few things. Thank you very much, Chuck. We appreciate all your work. We really do.
Right, and we certainly thank everyone on the commission and of course,
Yes,
Beth.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Good night now.
Okay, good night.
Night, Chuck. All right, Beth, do we need a vote on the calendar? The calendar is the calendar, isn't it?
No, you got to vote on it.
Okie dokie.
And I guess what you should do probably is say your standard for now, it's meeting room D. Remember good old meeting room D at the Municipal Center?
Wait till we get home.
And, you know, say it's 7 o'clock, meeting room D, and adopt your calendar accordingly.
Okay, if I may have a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the schedule for the planning and zoning meeting to take place at 7 p.m. in the Dennis J. Reardon Meeting Room, Conference Room D. And like I said, the schedule as presented to us tonight.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Of course, Bob did.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? All right, motion passes. Next is our election of officers for 2021.
I want to start by saying, Pat, thank you for the fruit basket today. That was nice.
John. Oh, John.
I got chocolate. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I got wine. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the slate as it has been, Pat, Bob, and myself as secretary for next year.
Beth, do we still do a treasurer?
I don't think we've done a treasurer in a while.
We haven't done a treasurer in years.
No, not
Oh,
yet.
okay, all right,
So it's, yeah, chairman, co-chairman, and secretary.
okay.
Can Kitty make that motion since she's on that slate?
Yeah, since she's,
Oh, I've always done the first two. Somebody else has to do the third. Okay.
Well, I think that certainly should bring a lot of discussion in. Pat, how committed are you, Pat? It's
John,
a fair question, Nancy.
John, after 23 years, I'm still here.
All right, so I'm gonna, if Kitty, I may amend your motion. I'd like to make a motion to elect Pat Risk as chairman, Mr. Legnard as vice chair, and Kitty Grant as secretary.
Oh, God.
All right, is there any discussion on this?
Well, it needs to be a second, please. Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who
Got
is
it, Rick.
second?
Rich did it.
I have it. Rich is second.
Thank you, Rich. All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Did I hear all voices?
I thought it was gonna be a lot closer of a vote than that, Pat. You did very well.
You want to change it, John? You want to be secretary, John?
You did very well.
Okay, Pat,
All right.
are you done with your voting? I'm sorry, it was moving on to some other matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. You do have something under new business?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to remind you of that.
Yep, that was the next thing I was going to.
Thank you.
All right, under
And
new
I don't
business,
see a wishful schedule date on that.
we have Victoria Heron, Tracy Castelli, 28 South Street, site plan 8-30G, additional 5 units for a total of 11 units.
Do we have a date?
We have to accept the application.
All right.
Accept the
And do you want to have a public hearing on it?
Absolutely.
Then I would suggest a date. Well, you have a couple other things, but you'll understand. The date I'm going to suggest to you is February 11th, 2020.
Okay.
2021, yeah.
I'd like to make.
2021, I'm sorry. And I'll go through my reasoning because we have other stuff coming in and going on.
I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing for Victoria Heron, Tracy Castelli, 28 South Street, site plan 830G, 5 additional units, total of 11 units for February 11th, and have it sent out to all the appropriate agencies in Bethel.
Second.
Thank you, Penny. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 I need more voices.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Come on, guys, this is gonna be an early meeting.
Moving on, planning and zoning official report.
Okay, so it's been a very, very busy year, but there are a few things that you have talked to me about individually and you wanted to see taken care of. And the major item is the accessory apartment regulation, taking that off the table as a special permit by the Planning and Zoning Commission and make that a department approval. So I think that we should, I'm putting together some items like that we need to clean up a little bit. And I will also have them to you after the holidays, but before the 1st of January, and hopefully we can do something in the middle of January, towards the end of January, to take care of that, some in-house business.
Nice.
I also will I will check with town council as far as the TOD regulations and the status of that, just to reconfirm that we're okay. And outside of that, it's been a busy time. I do have one zoning matter that I wanted just to bring up to you guys. And Pat is aware of it, but I just want to refresh everybody's memory. Dealing with Toll Brothers, the Summit. Who's there?
John's
John Lennon.
Oh, is that John?
Yeah.
Call me on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he is. See, there he is on the phone.
But anyway.
Sorry, guys. Hang on. Let me call you right back. Sorry. Bye. Sorry, Red Cross. Sorry.
Ooh,
Sorry.
That's okay. Several months ago, and Pat, you can refresh my memory and their memory too. Brian Walters from Walnut Hill with the Summit. And we've done this it seems every year or so. We get an email and a request of when you're going to have the retreat. And the last time we had this discussion with Mr. Walters, I believe, Pat, he's a neighbor of yours, and you brought all the information and stuff. So this time I'm going to do the same thing. Nothing has changed. We made the changes to the site plan to protect the water tanks portions of the ridge and so on and so forth. So if you're in agreement, I'm just going to forward him the same information that I did send him before.
That I hand delivered to him.
You hand delivered it, okay. But anyway, so I'm gonna take care of that. That's closing for the year. Otherwise, I'm looking forward, as to the rest of you, to 2021, New Year's Eve. And I appreciate all the work that you've done over the last 12 months, considering all the obstacles that we've all had to face. But it's nice to end the old year with having Rob Wallace back on the board, and everybody, Rob Stoll back on the board. Sorry, Rob. It's nice having you back on the board too, Rob. But it's nice to have Rob Stoll back, and you're at a full commitment now, and I'm looking forward to 2021. That's all I have.
Thanks, Beth.
Would you mind very much, Pat, if I said something?
No, not at all.
This has been a pretty full year, and I'd like to thank the staff of the Planning and Zoning, because I think you've done a fabulous job, and I appreciate everything you've done, and look forward to working with you next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that completely.
Thank
It's
you.
been an incredible year for your department. And you stepped up all along the way to things that were somewhat distasteful, somewhat good, but you just never shirked, and you just always came forward and gave us the best information that you could possibly give us, which helps us do our job. And we're very grateful for that. That goes for Nancy, that goes for David.
Everybody.
Very grateful.
Well, and I just, of course, now I have to have the last word and just say that we're very fortunate that we have Beth to guide the department, because as you know, that's guidance from above is vastly important. And in this case,
no, it's a team. It's not.
We are a great team. We are a great team, but we need a leader, and you're it, babe.
That's right.
That's meeting when she was muted.
Elizabeth, I have a question.
Yeah.
Kitty Grant hasn't figured out how to hustle me for my contribution for your holiday gifts virtually.
John.
Last year she accosted me in a parking lot.
Well, O'Neill's is closed.
Look, just seeing everybody here is all that matters to me. It really
Good
is.
health too.
We're all healthy.
When there's
That's
a
all that matters.
restaurant open, guys, I suggest we take the staff out either to lunch or dinner.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll make that deal.
And a glass of wine.
I remember when Peter Olson was the chairman, he used to take me to dinner, Pat.
Oh, I don't think so, John.
Oh, we did.
He gave me chocolate.
All right. Now we got a few other items on the agenda. We have public input and commissioner comments. I think you've all made good comments recently, so let's close it with that. But I think there's some public maybe that wants to say something. Is BJ there?
BJ's here.
BJ has unmuted
Yes.
herself.
I have unmuted myself and I have two things. When you are talking to the town officials about the parking, would you be maybe talking about leasing some parking spaces from the bank, from Wells Fargo? And I was reading an article about car sharing relative to TODs. And the article said that fully 63% of city car share members lived in zero vehicle households. By extension, putting car share pickup spots was strongly associated with car shedding. So, you know, just two ideas.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Would you want to be on that committee, BJ? You walk the walk.
Come on, BJ.
I think
muted herself.
I think you'd be an asset. You live in downtown, you walk downtown. And you're
Okay,
very
let me think on that.
okay. We'll talk.
Okay. Okay, you're reaching out. Any other public input? I guess hearing none. If I may have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Come on, Patty. Second.
Thanks, Bob. All those in favor? Aye. I need to hear voices.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.